Hello, and good to see you again. Here we have again Robb LaPeen from Destination 420, and we've got Allison Shatter with Tikkun Olam products. How was that for opening?
Sounds good
I
to
don't know
me.
too much about either one of these, except I've been in touch with them for a long time, and this is the first time that I've really met them in person. So why don't you tell us about Tikkun Olam, especially how you make that pain cream?
It's a proprietary recipe.
Oh, so you're not going to tell?
No, I can't. I can't.
Okay.
I actually make it for with the essential oils, and I also make it with the THC. So I can accommodate both people if they don't have a medical card. I believe it works just the same, but of course the THC is going to give you that added.
How can you use THC? Isn't that illegal? Would they consider that recreational use or something?
Well, technically it is because it's a
Schedule 1.
yeah.
I mean, federally it's not legal, but we're under our state's protection.
Oh, I see.
So they're actually abiding by the way the Constitution is written and allowing our states to, control our government at this time without
Well, that can't
effectiveness.
last long.
But wouldn't it still
No.
be considered
They've
illegal?
got an ulterior plan, trust me.
Wouldn't it still be considered illegal because it's a concentrate, or do they just kind of like look away?
Well, the state's accepted concentrates now, especially
Okay.
since we're so close to licensing. They've seen the benefits of the oils. I mean, we have hundreds of people testify at the meetings that we just had recently when they tried to shut us down in September. That was another story I skipped
Really?
over, I guess. Yes, we thought we were going to be shut down in September, and no, this was just a Michigan thing, so, but regardless, so many patients stepped forward, so many veterans, so many parents, with children that were benefiting from cannabis, and including myself and our president, who don't even use the THC. Several people spoke that don't use the THC, but they just seen the benefits from it to the point they had to leave us open. So they basically come up with a temporary permit, and if you met the qualifications, then you could get the permit to operate. So that's what we're operating under now, even though we were just approved for our license as far as our facility goes last Thursday. We did the first walkthrough in Michigan, and we're the first operating facility that's been approved. So we still have to go before the licensing board, and that's coming up. So that'll be soon.
Well, my co-host does a commercial for Tikkun Olam pain cream. And that's Brother Shroomkopf. You probably don't know who I'm talking about, but I used it. I thought, how can this shea butter help any pain? And I did a bad sprain on the ankle, and I put that stuff on just to try it, but nothing's going to happen. And immediately, just about immediately, the pain not only went away, but it went away for good. That's a sprained ankle.
Mm-hmm.
As I was telling you before, the person that was in the house with me got a hold of it for another sprain, and it worked for her, and she stole the jar of it. She took it away with her. So there is something else in there besides shea butter.
Well, a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
I also make a massage cream. I also make a lotion. And then I started making a new product that I've only tested on myself.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I have to tell you the story.
Go.
All right. In November, I was diagnosed with a malignant tumor in my breast. I'm not going to use the C word because I never owned it. And I had a thermogram. I did not have a mammogram. And I thought I was going in to have the thermogram for my right side. And as it turns out, it was my left side that was malignant. So because of the last 5 years of research that I've done on natural cancer treatments, including the THC, cannabis, I said to myself, why not me? You know, I've read everything, so now I have to apply it to myself. So it pretty much took me 2.5 months, and I have the middle of February, I had an MRI, and there was no malignancy, there was no tumor.
Really?
Yes.
That,
Success.
if it works for you, it'll work for about anybody.
Yes.
So when's this product going to be made available?
Well, it wasn't, I'm not going to say that it was just this product that actually, I'm sure it contributed to it, but I also did a lot of other natural treatments along with it. I kind of just bombarded myself. I first, you know, mentally prepared, spiritually prepared. Yah prepared me, like I said, in Sukkot, to go through, you know, the spiritual part of it, any unforgiveness, any anger, anything in your subconscious that, you know, childhood traumas. And then little did I know that November I was going to be diagnosed.
You
So,
didn't know it at the time.
of course not, but Yah prepared me.
What happened at that Sukkot? Where was it?
It was at Shanty Creek, I believe. It was my first being pulled out of the world,
Is this
out of
in
Babylon.
Michigan?
Yeah, it was in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
And so you went with a group?
I went with a group. Yeah, we have a small group that meets in Howell once a month. In fact, we are going to be meeting next weekend if you guys are still here. We meet once a month. We started about 2.5 years ago with 12 people, and 2 years later we had over 100 adults and 20 kids.
That's real growth.
We're here. We're huge. There was over 100 people for Passover.
Amazing. And that's just in Howell.
We're kind of pulling people from all over Michigan, really, from up north, and yeah.
Well, we went to church last night in Holland. No, it was in Wyoming. Wyoming. The biggest church I have ever seen. And being a church pastor for years and years, I've seen a few of them. But that little place out in the middle of nowhere, it was full of, there were hundreds of people there, if not 1,000 people. So I guess you can pull them in. It's not just a matter, I think, of opening the doors and they'll come anymore, but you must have something there to have that good response in such a short time with such a strange religion. You know, Torah people, who does that these days?
It's not a religion, it's a relationship.
Amen. Amen. So you formulate these things all yourself?
Yes. Well, yeah, actually, I, with the last product that I was using, I sometimes get up at 4:30 in the morning and I start researching, and I just had this still small voice say, try this, this, and this.
Mhm.
And that's what I did.
And it worked.
And it did.
Well, and how much time did that take? Evidently not much.
2.5 months from the
Yeah.
time I was originally diagnosed. So they say with cancer, you've had it in your body for at least 5 years before that.
That was applied topically?
Well, I applied topically, but I also, another thing that was a miracle is my son, who also grows. He grows 100% organic. And I had bought in some seeds that were called Cancer's Nightmare.
Mhm.
And it was 50% CBD, 50% THC. And probably a year previous to that, he had grown a couple plants and he wasn't happy with the way the quantity came out, the quality, the bud formation. And he just said, you know, I'm not going to grow this anymore. And I'm truly into it for medical. So I was discouraged, but what I didn't know is that he never killed the mother plant. So unbeknownst to me, he started growing 2 more plants and harvested them 2 weeks after my diagnosis.
Mhm.
So because he does everything naturally, he makes a natural rosin, which you press the oils out of the plant. There's no chemicals used whatsoever. He had created a natural rosin for me, and I made sure because I don't like the THC effect, I don't like the what is it?
Psychotropic.
Yeah,
Mm.
Getting high.
right.
Yeah,
I
yes.
don't like that. I never did. I made sure that when he pressed it, that he kept the plants below 200 degrees. So when he pressed it and then I put it into a rosin capsule, I also took that. But technically, I've not had them tested. I still have them available to be tested, but I believe it was the THCA because it was not over 200 degrees, so it didn't get that, you know, psychoactive effect.
And the CBD.
And the CBD.
Yeah.
And I was taking the capsules, and then I was applying the THC Rickenson oil topically in the formula that I made.
That sounds like it could be a breakthrough. I mean, it's a miracle for you to get healed, but that could be a miracle for a lot of people. If you had results in a couple of months. Absolutely. That is incredible.
Well, I actually knew a gentleman, he's now since passed away, that I had been working with, and he was in Texas, and he was curing stage 4 cancer in 3 weeks. And Texas cannabis is not legal, and it wasn't back when he was using it. So fortunately, about a year after he passed away, I reached out to his son, who still had his hard drive, and I have all his protocols. So
there's more than one. There are several of them.
Yes.
For different types of diseases?
Well, and what I did is I did a lot of researching, which I'm now coming to find out that breast cancer is associated with the hypothyroidism, which I also have that too. So that's something that I'm working on healing right now.
My wife died of breast cancer.
Okay,
7 years
I'm sorry
ago
to hear
this
that.
month, but trying to go the doctor way. She was diagnosed back in, well, she lived 13 years. They said she had a 5% chance of living a year. But the last few years was a horror. And primarily because we couldn't get the medical care needed. I guess because we're not rich. We just couldn't get it. And she never took the chemotherapy and still lived that long, but she fought all the way until that cancer had spread all over her. I'm thinking about the possibility of using this as a multi-level approach, as you did, to curing cancer. And I hope that you'll be able to make the formula public. Perhaps you could, when it comes to day, hopefully, that this becomes legal everywhere, you could probably market that. You think?
I don't see why not.
You're being very secretive right now.
Well, that's because I'm the only science guinea pig that used it.
Yeah.
And I have to say a lot of it, again, is spiritual. I never accepted the diagnosis. To me, any kind of medical diagnosis is of man. There's nothing that of Yah. Yah tells us that we can heal ourselves naturally, and I believed it. So my faith was very strong. I had researched, natural cancer treatments for over 5 years. I have a specific page on my website that goes through all the natural treatments, and believe me, I used them. So I can't say that was this one thing that worked over another. I knew what I had to do when I got to work.
In states where it's not quite, I'm not going to say easy, but we'll say more difficult to get it, like we're from Florida, and the initial cost is just to get in the programs $300 plus stumbling blocks of doctor's visits that you have to go through. And also there is still a really, really strong in our area attitude against using that. The fear is that homeless people and potheads will be swarming into our city, which...
Oh, I just experienced it this weekend. I had to sit there and keep my mouth quiet when somebody was explaining at our last Torah group. I have to be careful what I say, but there was a negative comments about cannabis use, and I'm more verbal now, more confident now because I've been around it. Actually, some of the RSO that I first started making, actually cured, I'm sorry,
RSO,
RSO, Rick Simpson oil,
Rick Simpson, right?
cured a gentleman
Mhm.
with lung cancer. Now, I can't say that it was actually all the RSO because he went with an alkaline diet. He really watched what he ate, which that's all part of it, which I had to go through too.
Yeah.
I had to go through a paleo diet, which I'm pretty much sticking with the best I can because I've dropped like 55 pounds and I still have to lose
Oh.
more. But
Well, back to Florida again. Would it be worth somebody that has been diagnosed with cancer, or even not, somebody that might have cancer but also pain, or cardiac artery disease like me? Is it worth the money in order to get in the program in the first place, in your opinion?
Yeah. I mean, how much? What's your health worth? You know,
Right.
what's your life worth?
So this is, you're saying this is so well worth it, it's worth sacrificing greatly financially for to get on the program.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's been parents that have moved across the state with a child with brain cancer,
mhm.
you know, or severe whatever seizures or what have you. They'll move their whole family to a state because it helps that good. Autistic children, I mean, pop out of their autistic shells and talk and can live a normal life.
Is there any use of working it with stage 4 patients?
Yes, I've had the unfortunate experience in the last 10 years of helping several patients after the mainstream medical, system is done with them. Basically, they come to me. I had one in particular had a tumor that had grown out of his eye socket, popped his eye out, and it was actually quite large, and it was in his brain. And they wrote him off, and he come in to my clinic with a bottle of Vicodin this big, and he says, him and his wife were there, and he said, I can't take these no more.
Mhm.
I can't take these no more. Can you help me? And he goes, I know, my situation's bad. I just need help getting off of these pills. So everybody donated, all my caregivers. He never had to pay a dime for anything, including myself. And I would take him medicine out every month. Well, they only give him 2 months to live. And he ended up living for a year after he had that diagnosis. And I went out one day not knowing that he had passed away. And I went with his bag of medicine, and his wife come to the door and she said, you didn't hear? And I said, no. And she said, he's passed away. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. It was exciting just hearing that he was doing better and he was off the medicine, and he was getting out. And his wife told me, she said, no, you done a great thing. She said, we've had the best time of our marriage this last year. She said, we were going to car shows and movies. He forgot all about his sickness and just started living his life to the fullest at the very end. The cannabis allowed him to get not only help him with his pain, but psychologically not to care
Stress,
so much about,
depression,
so much about the worry about what might happen tomorrow, so he was able to extend his life, and it actually improved their life. So he went out on a good note, I guess.
Well, an unexpected benefit.
Yeah. So
Well, you also got to consider too, anytime you put any kind of prescription drug in your body, it's a toxin. Our
yes.
bodies were not designed that way. I mean, vaccines, you look at all the studies that they're now coming out with. Anything foreign other than a plant product, which is biblical, that gets put in the body is going to create a toxin, which is going to cause some sort of a disease or your organs to start failing somewhere. And a lot of the problem starts in the gut.
I understand that cannabis is one of the ingredients in that holy oil
Yep.
that they used in the temple. At least that's what
Abraham's
thinking.
anointing oil.
Yes. And I actually, that was kind of my first stumbling on cannabis. And I actually ran across a Jewish lady, Reformed Jew out of California, that worked out at Stanford University. She had her PhD, and she studied with a Greek scholar. And between the two of them, they did the research and came up with, yes, that it is part of the anointing oil.
I was thinking, you know, in the Epistle of James, which I believe is an authentic work, chapter 5. Call for
Did
the
you bring your
elders.
Bible?
But you've got to ingest the Bible, and then you don't need it anymore.
Wasn't his real name Jacob or something?
Yaakov.
Yeah.
Yaakov.
I got my
James
phone.
through that. King Imes, I believe, did that.
Absolutely. So we'll call him Yaakov.
Yeah.
I thought, how much curative is olive oil going to be, unless it's got something in it? Obviously, when they talk about oil, they're not just talking about olive or jojoba oil or something like that.
It's cannabasum.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
That's what my cream is, the cannabasum cream.
It's in our oldest written history.
That is a revelation to me. This came to me, so you have some of that too. Can you just put CBD oil in? I mean, CBD oil in oil or carrier oil?
Sure.
Yeah.
That would do something worthwhile.
But I know I came across a study of a doctor out in California that treated cancer patients, and he said that the THC works best with CBD.
Yeah.
If you can do 50-50, that is the best.
The endocannabinoids work together somehow or another, you know,
So
in the system.
Ingesting.
You're not a scientist?
Might as well be.
You have to be.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ingesting, let's say,
I don't like to use that word.
I know it, but I'm using it.
Cannabis.
Yeah. I'm running this in.
Yeah.
I won't answer you if you use pot.
What should I use that if you're going to go outside?
Medicine, cannabis.
Weed.
Yeah. Ganja.
If you ingest the actual
Cannabasum. Let's use the Hebrew name.
you're going to get both of them, right? You're going to get both the THC and the CBD.
If you're using
if you use what?
The straight
cannabis.
plant.
Well, no. The only time the THC happens is when you heat it over 250 degrees.
Yes.
And see, that's what the product that I was using is we didn't heat it over the 250 degrees because, well, I did not want to have to deal with the psychoactive effect. So I said, let's try it out. And that's what I did.
Almost like she was eating it fresh, but it was in concentrate.
Right. It was in a rosin form.
Well, I guess that explains why it works in cookies.
Yeah.
Because you heat it in the oven.
Up,
right.
Yeah. Kibotulizes or something like that.
And then when I heated it after he heated it to make it into a rosin, I then had to take it out of that rosin form and mix it with a lectin to put it in capsules, but I only heated it up to 100 degrees. So we kept it below that. Right.
Right.
Well, what my brother wanted, he had a car here in Michigan. He called it a wax. I'm thinking that it might be that rosin that you're speaking of right now.
It's a form of that. It's actually a pure form. Like she said, it's natural because there's no chemical being used to extract it. But in the wax can be extracted with like a CO2 closed unit, you know, closed loop unit. And then there are people that use dangerous extraction methods like butane.
Yeah.
And that can actually mess somebody up.
Yeah, I imagine. So you're talking a little earlier about resonance. Can you explain what you mean? I know that's a big thing going on right now. Everybody's talking about 258 and 440 and resonance.
220, 221.
Okay, what? The love is green.
Yeah.
Okay, frequency. Well, the whole world has a frequency. We all vibrate. We're all connected.
Do we just have one frequency, or is it like one? I can't imagine the whole person has just one frequency.
Well, you'll have to do a deep study, but there's, I think there's five tones that are called solfeggio tones that are found in numbers 11.
The iambic scale.
Yeah. And then, of course, when Babylon and the Cabal, whatever you want to call them, have changed the frequency of music from 432 to 440, which means that our bodies don't resonate well with the frequency that we hear. You know, your cell phones, your computers, your electronics, we're all being bombarded with, and that's a lot of it too. I think we're going to see a lot of cancers popping up, if we haven't already, with the cell phones.
Well,
And
especially when they
the
go to this
Bluetooth
5.
and the 5G.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Geez.
That's why I totally believe on earthing. I don't know if you've heard of earthing, but you just take your shoes off, you go with your bare feet, and you either connect in the sand or you connect in the grass, and you ground your body back to the frequency of the earth.
We've been talking about that in our home fellowship, going as far as to invent devices that you can use and plug into the ground in the house, metal screens and so forth.
Right. Copper. Yeah, copper and aluminum. I made one.
You make them out of both copper and aluminum,
Yeah.
or one or the other?
Yeah.
There is some people are saying if you plug it into the wall, you have the AC frequency with the sine wave. That's not good, but
Now, I was told that
anything
you don't plug it into the wall, but you take that copper wire and you connect it to the ground part of the outlet that goes right down into the
Right.
ground.
right,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. You plug it in the wall,
Yeah.
the ground part. I would rather go right to the dirt too, to just pound a ground rod down.
Yeah,
I was
you
an
just-
electrician at one time, but
And then there's frequency in water. Water, I mean, we're like 60% water.
I've read
Our
about
brains are
that.
75%
Yeah,
water.
to some extent, especially there's a book that came out about 20 years ago about crystallization of water.
Right?
That was pretty fascinating. When they took water and they actually said nasty words over it, it didn't
Yep.
crystallize right. If
Yep.
something good was said over it, it did crystallize. This is just flies in the face of everything we've learned growing up.
It
It
is.
flies
Well,
in the face of it.
Think about it. If they can change the frequency of water and turn bad water into clean water by speaking into it, Yah spoke the world into existence, correct?
Yeah.
So his frequency, his blueprint is still in existence
Could have
of
been
how
like
he
music.
created. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The
okay.
music of the
Yeah.
spirit.
So if your body is made up of 60% water and you speak life into your body, into other people, you speak love, that's healing.
Well, I'm thinking too about resurrection. We just come through the resurrection season here. We talk about that too. How is the resurrection of all flesh supposed to happen? I have it in my mind that there's a DNA bank, and people, though they might be in ashes all over the place or just completely gone, he's able to reconstruct them with a word the same way, dropping a word on that library, and they all come forth and grow marijuana, probably, if they have a chance for the healing of the nation. So,
Marijuana has a frequency too.
yeah,
Mhm.
what's that?
Resonates.
Well, what's the frequency of green?
Oh,
528.
That's why they say sometimes that if you're not resonating right, it won't react to you properly. It can have a bad reaction actually.
Well, some in our group is going to jump on this. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
so what if you're taking some pharmaceuticals? Will that change your frequency?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Won't
that's
work?
that's part of the
Well,
plan.
okay, so what I understand, if you that's why Yah tells us to eat clean and unclean. You start eating pork, if you do some science behind that, everything that you eat, if you eat everything good, but you eat pork with that pork creates such a negative that everything that you eat is no longer healthy for your body.
They did that study back in the 50s about the poisons in certain types of animals.
Oh, the
Mhm.
Mott's
Camels and
report.
pigs. Yeah, that was it.
The toxins in all the unclean things,
Hmm.
and it was just the motley crew, I guess.
And that's what I understand. People talk pharmakia now, and they think it's marijuana. It's not. It's our medical system. It's all your prescription drugs that you're taking. That's your pharmakia.
Well, I've been on them for 35 years. I've had this problem, genetic, and somehow I've stayed alive. I've had a lot of people try to convince me to do these things, but it's such a huge change. And for me personally, I've been brainwashed all these years, and I've kept alive all these years. It's just I can hardly, I don't have the grasp of knowledge of this stuff to be motivated. What do you say about that?
Unfortunately, it becomes an addiction, and your body probably
Mhm.
cannot survive anymore without it.
If I went off
Yeah.
of it, yes, I get
Yeah, I mean, it would be fatal possibly. And so what you need to do is you need to wean yourself, and it may
Mhm.
take a couple years. It's not something you can just go cold turkey on. And but I have seen some of our chronic pain patients get off their narcotics really fast. Yeah. And it's amazing, and that can be done through CBD. It doesn't necessarily have to be THC. I mean, THC, I believe, has certain
Cannabinoids.
yeah, it's a certain cannabinoid, but it basically has something to do with shrinking tumors. It's kind of one of its,
Yeah, that's what I've heard the most.
but the
of.
CBDs actually kill pain better than the
Uh-huh.
THC. So,
Really?
yeah, used in combination, like it works best, I believe. But it depends on what's wrong with you. You know, we have great results with just CBD products, and great results with just THC products too. So,
Last time we talked about lung cancer too,
Mhm.
yeah.
going down like crazy. Is that still the case now after these years?
Case after case after case. Like Allison's just her own testimony, and I have several hundreds of patients with the same testimonies.
I've also
It's
heard
amazing.
people that are ingesting peroxide, 35% peroxide, a couple of drops.
Oh, yeah, the drops.
Yeah,
I do inhaling with 3% food grade.
I would not use that because it's got all the chemicals and toxins in it.
It's food grade.
Oh, food grade. I'm sorry. I wasn't listening.
He pollutes it himself,
Okay. Yeah.
and he's starting to do turpentine now.
I'm going to.
I was going to say, in fact, the gentleman that I knew from Texas, he actually would tell people to put the peroxide in a humidifier and put that next to your bed every other day for like 2 weeks, and that would cure lung cancer, any kind of lung.
The oxygen in the
Right,
atmosphere around
right. And that's huge too.
That's
So
easy enough to do.
yeah,
But you're saying you can't use the peroxide off the shelf then?
no, because it's got all the toxins and chemicals in it.
Where are we
And
going to get that peroxide besides going to Tennessee and getting it out the country?
you can buy it
The
online.
store, yes, you can. It's expensive.
Yes.
Just for saying the stuff you buy in the store has stabilizers in it. When the food grade is set out and it gets heated, it loses some of its potency over time. Stuff you buy in the store does not. It's got those stabilizers, which is toxic.
Hmm.
Not pure stuff. What they use is hydroperoxide for 35% also is in the cheese making process. So I found a place in the country with the Amish, and I was able to get a gallon of 35% for $11.
Are you still able to get it?
We're gonna go by there.
We
Yeah.
need to
Okay.
get a bunch of that. and
I
we
was
could
going to
resell
say,
it.
yes, get me
Help
some,
people.
because that was one of the things that I did to detox. Not only was I detoxing internally during my protocol, but I also detoxed, externally, because your skin is your largest organ in your body, and people don't realize that. So you're getting bombarded with, I don't know if you guys are, a lot of people are familiar with chemtrails. They're real. They've got the aluminum and barium and whatever other kind of chemicals that they're putting in the air, and then it goes down to the ground, and we're eating it, we're ingesting
Well,
it,
let
and
me ask you a question about that. What do you think the purpose of them are?
genocide.
Just to kill people?
Sure. And to keep us sick and to keep us in the system.
The
It's a-
mainstream system is disease management. It's
Right.
not healthcare.
It's run by satanic people.
No disease,
and-
no money.
Right.
There's a website called No More Blue Skies.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a member of our group of our network. Basically, she's been in the pharmaceutical. She was in the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years and 30 years, I think. And she said, from what she's seen from starting out, even the doctors that were taking the medicine that she was giving them, muscles falling off their bone. You know, I mean, just so many different side effects. And she says it's just they get you get like golden handcuffs, they call it, because they pay them so much money to sell these drugs. It's just ridiculous, you know.
So is the government, is that who is voicing us through the chemtrails,
Oh, well,
or some bigger?
are we going to admit any of this in public?
No.
You've already said our names.
Yeah, right. Oh my, we're a target now.
Your IP address tells where you are.
1,000 other people say on YouTube.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you're just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
We're all trying to learn
It's
something.
the Wizard of Oz.
Doesn't it make sense? Take everything good. We're eating processed food that has no nutrients whatsoever.
It sounds absolutely devilish and a money game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a money game.
I think even back in the day when we were younger, well, you see young kids with cancer and 19, 20 years old, younger, 5 years, 4 years. We actually ate better, you know, back in our day. We had some organic food and the grocery stores were, you know, more organic and stuff. Now it's just 100%
I don't know.
GMO.
I remember when I was little, I grew up with Hamburger Helper.
True.
My
You know, but
mom
when you
worked
ate a
at-
tomato, it was actually a tomato.
Yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I mean?
That's true.
When I was a kid, they were actually tomatoes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
They just grew up. If you had somebody had a bucket of rotten tomatoes, they go throw it out in the yard, and the next year it just they go wonderful tomatoes. But if you had a tomato lately,
Yeah, I know. It has no
it
flavor.
has no flavor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nothing to it.
Yeah. It lasts for 2 months.
So,
It looks the same.
Allison, how is it that we get a hold of you? And tell us a little bit about your business. Well,
How do you get a hold of me?
yeah, you have products for sale. You're online.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Okay,
In
I'm
fact,
not gonna-
I'm
I'm not
gonna
gonna turn you
revamp
in.
my website. No, that's fine.
Okay.
If they're in the state of Michigan, they can get my THC creams, lotions. They can contact me. They have to have a license. Either that or they'll come to Rob.
Yeah, they want. She basically produces a lot of our products. So
And as far as what's going to happen after the state passes the laws, I have no
Yes.
clue what we're going to do.
You're thinking about November.
yeah, our products will always be available. But
Am I going to have to come here in your kitchen and make them?
yeah, our processing
right.
center.
Sold.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So is there any,
I think I'm moving.
is there any collusion here between, say, Florida and Michigan and Colorado and some of these other states? I should say collusion, standardization.
They all are a little bit different, have a different law structure. And us in Michigan we're actually different than any other state because we've been allowed to do something for the last 10 years that nowhere in the United States or the world possibly has been able to do, and that's just grow 72 plants for a fully loaded caregiver with 5 patients. And so
Well-
it's created a whole different market. It's created I actually think
But that just depends on where you grow
True.
them.
that's true.
Because it's
Not
not only
every
is
county.
not every county, not every city likes you.
No, especially in Detroit area, different spots down in Detroit,
Yeah.
Monroe, etc. And even up here, up north, you know, you have
You
a
can't
lot
buy
of,
seeds either.
Yeah,
Legally.
there are seed sellers and
yeah.
banks here in Michigan. Yeah,
and you can buy clones.
we buy
Um,
clones.
Clones.
Yeah.
Clones?
Clones.
Plants
Clone
that are
plants.
cloned. Yeah, that's what
Okay.
Tyler did. He cloned the mother
Yeah.
plant, and
That's right.
yeah.
We keep one plant growing, and you can keep it growing really as long as you take care of it.
Mhm.
It'll grow for years, and then you just keep cloning it. or
And that was
taking-
funny. He tried to kill it, and it wouldn't die.
It's a strong plant.
I'm
huh?
like, well, I'm like, you don't know why? That's because I needed it.
Cannabis is an amazing plant. It's a male, it has a male and a female plant. Kind of rare in the plant world. It's not the only one, but and there are other plants that create cannabinoids too, like hops. You know, hops actually
That
creates
was always
cannabinoids.
the standby if you couldn't get marijuana back in the 60s. You know, you put together your stems and seeds and your hops and rolled it up or smoked it in a pipe.
That's before my time.
Yep.
Well, that's good. That's that's good. I could sit and tell you some stories, but I don't know what the statute of limitations is on that.
Yeah.
So anything else you all want to say?
Thanks for stopping by and checking the place
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Great. Well, you
Good
know,
seeing you in person.
for sure. You
Mhm.
guys are two of the people that I've had numerous other people ask me if I had heard any more from, or you could tell me more. And I've been telling about that Pain Creek, you know, here and there. So
Well, you're
there
the
you
reason
go.
that I got a hold of Rob.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Mhm.
Yeah. I had somebody pass, knew that we were starting to grow and passed information for your first podcast.
Mhm.
And so when I saw his second podcast, I reached out to him on Facebook.
Well, just don't forget one thing. When the money starts rolling in, pay your time.
I'm donating 99% of all my.
Tithe is not part of the
Income.
law, is it? The
No.
law was done away with.
Yeah,
Pay
true.
your due. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. That's what they told us in church last
Right.
night. It's done away with.
So the tithe was done away with.
You pay dues, yeah. We got
Well,
dues.
we're just kidding. We're just kidding.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and we'll close it off for now, and we'll probably see this up before the end of the day.
Oh, great.
Now you're in trouble.